Right, okay, cool. So I'm a big fan of Visual Studio. I'm using VS Code more and more, but I've still got a lot of love for Visual Studio, the original one. And to celebrate the launch of Visual Studio 2019, I created a website called visualstudiotips.co.uk and put up a load of, well, tips and keyboard shortcuts and stuff that I knew, and surprised more people didn't know about them. Just put them all in one place, and so I did a lightning talk on this about a year ago. So I thought with Kevin asking to see if anyone had one, I thought I would do this again. Yeah, the obligatory about me. I'm the software development manager at leasing.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter. I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 cats now. They look a bit older than that, both the kids and the cats. Did this talk originally just when I came back from Japan, so you might see a few pictures from Japan in there, just thrown in. So yes, when I first did this, it was one of the first talks I ever did, and I put my speaking level as 2 out of 10. I'm probably up to maybe a solid 5 out of 10 now, so still very much room for improvement. Right, the first tip. Okay. So did you know that you can enter full screen mode? Some of you might know this or not. Some of you might not even use Visual Studio. Apologies if you don't, but you're gonna have to sit through this talk anyway. So yeah, full screen mode. So if you could do Shift Alt Enter and you can toggle between it. So I'm just going to skip virtual desktop and just do that here so you can see what it looks like. And you can toggle it on and off, and it allows you to focus a bit more on the central coding place. So that's number 1. Number 2, you can move the Solution Explorer as this very slow animated GIF shows. And you might think, well, why would you want to do that? I think the default is normally always on the right, but I think there was some studies shown that the cursor usually spends most of the time on the left-hand side of the screen, because that's where the cursor and the caret spends most of its time when you type in. A lot of the text is situated on the left-hand side of the screen, and they found, I think, if you have the Solution Explorer on the left-hand side, then your cursor has to move a lot less space than if it's on the complete other side of the screen. So yeah, you might want to consider moving that to the left-hand side rather than the default right. Split window. So this is an interesting one, especially if you've got very long files. I mean, no one's got long source code files, right? But if you did, and then you could still be looking at the top of your file as well as the bottom of your file by splitting the screen, and that is pretty neat. So I'll just jump over and do that, and I'll see if I can find a long file. This one's not that long, so you can drag this down, and I can see there's the top of the file, and I can look at something on the bottom, and I can, I think, double click it, and it'll go back to normal. Yeah. So that's split screen, split window, beg your pardon. You can do it via that as well, the window bit. Then we've got sync with active document. Now this is a neat one. So what you can do is, and this is the keyboard shortcut here, Control plus left bracket, then S, but you can also press this sort of left-right cursor button over on the right-hand side. And what you can do is, no matter what, if I close all my files and I minimize this, if I do Control left bracket S, it'll then jump to that file. It kind of makes more sense, and it's easier if you have it like buried down a few folders. So I'll do that. Yeah, if I do the same again, there you go. It kind of opens the folder that it was in and then highlights the file. As I said, I think that's also the icon you can press. Yeah, sync with active document. That does effectively the same thing. So sync with active document. Then we've got bookmarks. Now bookmarks, probably the most powerful and underused things. It's one of my favorite things. So what you can do is you can drop bookmarks into code files, and they don't have to be C# files. They could be CSS files, or JavaScript files, by pressing Control KK. And then if you've got them in multiple files, you can, I'll drop a few and I'll show you. Control KK, that drops it on that line, and then you get this little bookmark here. Let's go and add another one here, and let's go add one in here. Okay, by the way, please don't judge me on my code. I wrote this code is the actual the code for the website Visual Studio Tips, and I wrote it a while ago, so it's so please don't judge me on it. So if I do Control K N, it will kind of loop through them. Okay, and I could do a Control K K to toggle that off. I could do Control K P to go backwards the other way, so looping the other way. So that's bookmarks. Very useful. You can also list them. I forget what the keyboard shortcut for that is, but it's on my website, Visual Studio Tips, so you'll be able to maybe find that later. So that's bookmarks. Now, code map is quite cool, but that's a rubbish image, so apologies for that. I call it code map. I don't think it's officially called code map. What it is this sort of, in this vertical scroll bar on your right hand side, you can turn this on and you get like a bit of an outline of the file you're in. And I can never find it, so I always go to search here and just search code map. Oop, if I can spell code map right. Code map, and then it's actually called map mode bar. Anyway, I use map mode for vertical scroll bar. That's what you want to turn on, and you can make it wide or narrow or medium. It's quite good. You can, if you hold down your mouse as well, you get a nice tooltip of the actual code as well. I can feel you all judging me on my code now. Please don't stop it. Right, so that's code map. Code snippets is probably one most people know, but again, let's just go over them. So you can do things like CTOR to do a constructor, and prop to do a property, but there's a whole host of them. It just means you have to type less, right? So those are what was I doing now? Code snippets. So they're quite useful, especially if you're writing a lot of blank files. They're quite useful to save some keystrokes. Comment shortcut. So if you want to comment out a line, you can do Control K C or Control K. Is it U? Yeah, Control K C and Control K U to toggle that comment off, and you can do multiple lines as well. It bugs me a little bit that it doesn't do the multi-line comments sometimes. It always defaults to the // not the /*, but hey ho, maybe they'll change that in future versions, or maybe there's a way of doing it, I don't know. So that's comment shortcut. Then dark theme. Now I think it was in Visual Studio 2019 when dark theme first was introduced. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong afterwards if they want. But by default, if you've never used it, you're going to get this very light theme, and that just hurts my eyes if I stare at that all day. So you can change that to dark theme, which is, I think, what a lot of people prefer working in these days. But again, if you type in theme, I think in here, you can switch between dark, light, and blue. So yeah, that's dark theme. Delete all breakpoints. Now this one's useful, especially if you just can't find that bug, and you've all done this. I know you will have all done this, and you've just got breakpoints littered in maybe a controller and maybe a configuration class and some just all over the place. And if you just and it's annoying because next time you run through, you forget you've got them there, and you hit a breakpoint, and sometimes you're waiting for something to load, and it's just stuck on that breakpoint, and you just don't realize. But if you want to get rid of them all, and start again from with all your breakpoints, you do Control Shift F9, and that will give you the option to delete all your breakpoints, and then you can run your debug session again, and you won't hit those, and you can put them back in if you want to. Oops, wrong way. So that's delete all breakpoints. Then we have got expanding and collapsing all of your methods, brackets, various levels of indentation of your code, and that's quite useful if you just want to get an overview of all your methods in your file or your properties. You just want to collapse all of them, and that's Control M P and Control M O. and I think, try that, Control M-O, yeah, Control M-P, and you can toggle just one by Control M-M, I think. No, we can. Forgot what it is for just doing one. Oh, it is Control M. I was just in the wrong place. Yeah. So you can expand and collapse all of them, or just one, toggle them open and closed. Format document is one that I use a lot, just because I hate Whitespace, particularly invisible Whitespace. But maybe you've been in a bit of hurry and you've been rushing and you've just been a bit lazy like that. What I tend to do is I always tend to do Control KD, which is format document, and it just tidies all that up again. It's just force of habit really. Whenever I do a save a file, then I do format document, and I save it again. It's just sort of habit really. I keep going the wrong way. So that's format document, Control KD. I'm sure there's another way you could do it, but I'm all about the keyboard shortcuts, you probably noticed. Go to definition. This is a pretty bog standard one, but if you want to, you can right click on I think you can hold down Control and it turns it into a hyperlink, and then you can go to it. Yeah, or you can right click it and say go to definition as well. Pretty bog standard one, but again, if we're talking about navigating our way around code, it's one you're going to want to know. Go to line number. This is one that I'm surprised more people don't know really. So if you get like your old yellow screen of deaths, it says there was an error on line 278 of this file. And I see it all the time. I see people going to the file and they're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling this really large file. And I say to them, why don't you just do Control G and then just go to line, 100 or whatever it was. I said, oh, that's great. So that's to pick one of the shortest files I have. And then that will just focus on the line and go straight to the line you wanted. So let's go to line number. Move type to new file. This is really useful if you're starting a new project, I find. Something I tend to do probably more often than I should. So what you can do is you can just create some new classes, public class test, and now public class test 2. I'm not winning any points for imagination here, so apologies. Do you know what? I don't need those brackets, do I? Now, if I do Control KD, is that going to tidy it up? No, not the way I want it to. So what I tend to do is I might put some classes in the same file just while I'm starting out, just so I can see them all and put the content in. But then when I'm ready to move them out, rather than doing right click, create a new file in here, what you can do is you can right click them and do, maybe it's not there. You can definitely do Control Dot, which is a tip later on, which is, then you can do Control Dot, which brings up like a quick tooltip helpers things, and then you can do move type to test 2, and then there you go, it's moved it to its own file, and I can do that again. So yeah, that is move type to new file. Okay, then we've got multiple line edits. This is a massive time saver if you have lots of lines that have possibly got the same sort of things in it. So if I wanted to add a new, bad example. Okay, yeah, if I wanted to add something new on every line here, if you hold down Shift and Alt, then move up, down, left, right, you can highlight multiple lines, and then you can just start typing and it'll apply the same thing to each line. But that works for both adding as well as deleting. So if I wanted to delete all these curly braces, I could do all that. I probably don't want to do that, but I could do. So that's multiple line edit. Probably the example in the animated GIF's probably more relevant. Then we've got navigate forward and backward, which I think is amazing for just keeping track of where you've been and moving about the code in your solution. So if I'm navigating between files, I've gone to this home controller, then this tip controller, then if I close that, if I do control minus, it's going to go to the last place I was before I got here, like going back in time. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's opened it over here. Sorry. So there you go. And you can keep doing that. So you can do control minus and go back in time, or you can do control shift minus. No, control. Hang on a sec. What is it? Control shift and minus, and it should go back the other way. Yeah, go back the other way. And it's exactly the same as pressing these buttons up in the top left, which say navigate backward and navigate forward, a bit like your browser buttons, although I never see people using these buttons in the top left, but I always use the keyboard shortcut buttons. So if you ever want to get back to where you've been, do control plus minus. Then we've got peak definition, which is a really neat tool, but as neat as it is, I don't ever find myself using it that much. It's neat that you can right click and you can go and see what's going on in that method, and you can even do other things, and maybe I want to throw an exception and I can add that code and I can save it to that file, and I don't even have to sort of leave this file that I'm in at the moment. So that's peak exception. I think I want a new in there probably. Yeah. So yeah, and then you can, if you want to then see the rest of that file, you can click that and it'll bring it up to the top. So that's peak definition. You may not know, or you may know that one. Quick actions, I kind of had to show you earlier, and that is if you do control dot on I want to say most lines, because Visual Studio just gives you so many places you can do stuff, right? It's certainly whenever you see like this screwdriver here, it used to be a light bulb. That's interesting. I didn't realize it changed to a screwdriver. So yeah, it'll give you some advice. Here it wants to say, do you want to use an expression body for this method? I'm not a huge fan of them, so I don't want to in this case, but I can understand why some people would. So that's quick actions. Quick search is really useful if you just want to find a file or a class. Is it a class? Well, if you want to find things in your solution, basically, you could do control plus semicolon. Yeah, I do that and I start typing home. Oh golly. Yeah, it's going to find all the files that and classes that have got the word home in it. So that's really useful if you ever need to find something. There's so many ways of searching things in Visual Studio. This is yet another one of them. So it's control semicolon, and I believe that's probably called solution search or something. Don't know the exact name for it. Quick search. Rename field is really, really useful. I remember when this was first available in ReSharp, and we didn't really have this in Visual Studio, but thank goodness it's now in Visual Studio for probably been around a couple of versions, but it's really good. And I always call this the pirate tip, because I can never say Control RR without sounding like a pirate in my head. So yeah, if I want to rename a field, like, by example, probably I can rename anything I want, basically. I think methods, Control RR, and I can call that something else. I will literally call it something else to prove my point. Hit enter, and that should update all references to that. Yeah, so I'm going to undo that because I don't want it to be called something else. So that's rename field. Then scroll wheel font size, which is really useful if you want to share your code with someone, or you're going increasingly blind like I am, or you're doing presentations. You can hold down Control and grab the wheel of your mouse and you can just zoom in or zoom out to your heart's content. It's the same, I think. I'm going to move you guys out the way, as changing this percentage sign down here, but it's a lot quicker way of doing it. I go to some people's screens and they've got it on like all the code this small, which is, I can't read it. But yeah, you can zoom in like that. It's really useful. So that is scroll wheel font size. Show Whitespace is, again, a good tool in my war against Whitespace, and you can toggle that by doing Control R and W, which I presume is short for reveal Whitespace. And it's not obvious right away on the dark theme because you've got these dark green dots on a really dark background. It's more if it's on the light mode. You can change that color as I have here. So if I do Control R W, I've changed my Whitespace color to be this yellow, which is a bit more obvious on a dark background, if you ask me. Yeah, so I can see if I've got any trailing Whitespace anywhere or anywhere I don't want it, and it just offends me. So I just do Control KD, and that should get rid of all of my Whitespace that I don't need. Where are we going? So that is show Whitespace, and you can change the color. The tip for changing the color is actually on the website Visual Studio Tips. Then task list. Control KH. I forgot what this one is actually, so just bear with me. Control K, Control H. I think it's to show your to-do list. So let's have a look. Oh no, that's to add a. This is exactly the same as adding to do, which I think. If I do something there, you can actually view when you view your task list, that will appear. If I can find it, view task list. So there is and it's disappeared. That wasn't very useful. Let's just pin that. Is it pinned? Right. Yeah, okay, so yeah, there's my to-do that says something, but you could also do Control KH, and that will actually add in your task list as well, so you don't actually have to do to-dos if you don't want. Why would you want to do that? I don't know, but you can do if you want. Yeah, so that's task list. And then my last tip, I did lie when I said there's 25 tips, there's actually 24. My last tip is to go and check out visualstudiotips.co.uk and look at the tips that are on here that I probably not mentioned, and also you can see some slightly better videos of me explaining them. So yeah, that's your 25 tips for Visual Studio. Yeah, and then yeah, that's me in Japan again. Lovely place. If you've not been, I recommend you go. That's me done, Kevin. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if that's all right.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.